back to the Crazy Courage Business Stories podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm here today with my new friend, Joanne Martin from the PREC Planners. And Joanne is going to explain exactly what PREC means and what she does.
Thanks, Nick, for having me.
Of course.
And great little chat beforehand to kind of encompass how we got here. So yeah, it is pronounced PREC, and it's an acronym for Personal Real Estate Corporation. So I'm a financial planner that works with a very specific niche market of real estate agents. And so I kind of joke that if you don't know what a PREC is, you're probably not a client of mine. And if you do
I'm not
know,
your client, right?
Yeah,
I don't know what PREC is. So you got it. Yeah.
It's a very when I first kind of launched the brand, unless people were like, well, I don't know what it is. I'm like, well, then that's fine. Like it's an immediate kind of qualifier.
Yeah.
So, and how it kind of came, that brand specifically came to be. So it was just launched like literally 9 weeks ago. It's brand new.
Okay. Nice.
But I'm in my 7th year of financial planning. And so like if we roll back in time a little bit, prior to being a financial planner, I had a stint where I was a mortgage agent. So I made the shift from doing mortgages to financial planning. I knew some real estate agents. And one thing a lot of people don't know is in Ontario, a real estate agent was never allowed to incorporate their business. So like, you know how like anyone else can just like have a corporation for their business?
Because the real estate agent, they're usually tied to like a brokerage, right? Is that
right?
How explain? Look, I sort of know how it works, but I don't know exactly. So
if you were a brokerage owner, like if you were you had a Remax and you were a brokerage owner, the brokerage could form a corporation in which your agent's commissions could flow into, and that was fine. But the individual agents so whether it's a Remax, Royal LePage, and EXP, whatever it is, they all structure their comp models and a little bit differently. But the individual agents under each brokerage couldn't incorporate their income. So they were professionals and they were self-employed. Their income all had to come to them as being a sole proprietor, as commission income.
Okay.
And so, whereas in pretty much any other self-employed business, if you want to be a hairdresser, a mechanic, an HVAC person, a plumber, a lawyer, a physician, you could incorporate your business. And there's some tax benefits and estate planning benefits of having a corporation versus being a sole proprietor.
Okay.
And real estate agents, go ahead.
Tell you what, before we get, I just don't want to.
That's fine.
Do you know if it's different in other provinces?
So Ontario is one of the last provinces to get on board. So I think every other province allows their agents to incorporate.
So they allow that. Okay, wow.
It's a provincial legislation thing.
It's a provincial thing. Okay. So for some reason, and was there a reason why real estate agents specifically couldn't do it?
Yes. And I'm drawing a blank right now. Part of it had to
didn't know there'd be a quiz.
Yeah. Part of it has to do with legality. And so there's different types of corporations with different rules. So physicians, for example, have what are called professional corporations in which it impacts the share structure. So blah, blah, blah. So for the longest time, so if you were a real estate agent making $500,000 a year, you had to take all $500,000 as personal income, even if you only needed $100K to live off of. And that's taxed at about 54%.
Yeah.
Right?
Ouch.
So that was really ouchy for them.
Yeah.
And then same thing, like their RSPs would get filled really quick. And so that's why all of them just own all this real estate, because they couldn't build pension plans. They couldn't do group benefit things. Like they couldn't do any of that because they were just sole proprietors. So in October of 2020, the powers that be allowed them to form what's called a PREC, a personal real estate corporation.
Okay.
Which, great. But it comes with like asterisks.
Oh no, of course.
So there's all these like different, so it's not a real corporation. So it is a real corporation, sorry. But there's like shareholder restrictions. So like Nick, if you wanted to, like say there's an HVAC company and you want to come on board as a partner and they wanted you in there, you could buy shares of an HVAC company and that would be perfectly fine. You can't buy shares of someone else's PREC.
Okay.
So it's only the licensed real estate agent, which can be the equity or voting shareholder of it. So there's limitations there. The other limitation is it's only proceeds from the sale of real estate that can go into the corp. So again, if you're an HVAC company, you can have different divisions, right? You can have service, you can have manufacturing, you can branch out, do whatever, and you can have all these different sources of income coming into your corporation. Real estate agents, it's literally like you sell a house, brokerage pays you your commission check, that's it.
That's the only revenue you can have coming in.
That's the only revenue that can go into it.
Okay. So now can they own assets?
So they can.
Okay.
So that's one of the biggest questions that I solve for people is because they all like investing in real estate, right? Invest in what you
Right.
know. They all
Exactly.
have this
So,
thing. They want to buy investment properties. And so their question is, how do I now get my corporation to buy my properties for me?
yeah.
Or I own all these properties personally because I've been an agent for 15 years and I couldn't have a corporation. Should I or can I then move these properties inside a holding company or a corporation?
Right.
And the answer is, it depends.
I love
And
those.
I
I love
hate that. Like I feel like I should have a podcast like to educate agents called "Well, it
Yeah.
depends,"
It
because that's like
depends.
the
That's an
answer.
awesome name for a podcast. I love
Well, it
it.
depends, um, and it depends on a whole. And so, can you? Yes. Should you? It depends, right?
Right. Right.
And so, those are my conversations with my
But that's
clients.
where
Is
you
like,
come in, right? So that
and that's where I come in.
right,
So
right.
those are
That's
the problems
awesome.
I solve. So yeah. So anyway. So yeah. So new got into the industry in 2018, knew a lot of real estate agents. They became clients. They couldn't incorporate. My husband at the time had an HVAC company, so I
Yes.
understood the pros and cons of what it meant to be an incorporated business owner.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, this really sucks for you guys. So when the
Yeah.
PREC comes on the scene in 2020, I like learned everything about it on behalf of my existing clients. They were like, Joe, should I do this? Should I not? How does this work? And I didn't do too much with it right away because what happened with real estate in 2021 was COVID and the market was insane,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it
And so
was.
one of two things happened. Agents either right away got a PREC and then had no idea what they were doing and they just funneled all this money into it and they were like, I've got one and I don't know how, like, I don't know how I should pay myself. I don't know how to get the money out. What do I do with it? How do I pay my tax? Like nothing. And
Okay.
then a bunch of other agents were like, whoa, I don't understand this. I'm super swamped. I'll deal with this later.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Makes sense.
So then in 2022, that's when lots of agents were kind of getting their head above water a little bit. And we're like, so my main presentation education session I do, pardon me, it's called PREC Now What? And that's
Right.
exactly it. I've got a PREC. Now what do I do? So yeah, so I just really, so on behalf of my clients, and what I realized, so my industry, the financial industry, we're terrible at, well, any industry, any business owner, they get so into what they know that they
Yeah.
forget how to explain it to people that don't know it.
Right. Yeah.
So how I found success is I found a way to explain corporate financial planning, boringest thing in the world, to salespeople who are not like at that level in a very like simple, easy to understand way. I literally pen and paper, I go into presentations, I put one of those big paper post-it notes on the wall and I go with a Sharpie and we just draw pictures. I draw
Nice.
stick figures and arrow to help them understand their corporation.
Salespeople are simple. Yeah.
I remember and so this is like, so when you're talking about entrepreneurs, the very first time I was like, okay, I'm going to do a presentation about PREC.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I had a PowerPoint and I spent hours and I rehearsed it and I really want to make a good impression. And I think I had like 9 or 10 agents show up, which is great. Like
Okay. Sure.
that's a good room. And I remember talking and like their eyes were glazed over and I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. And one of my girlfriends was in the room and she puts her hands up and she goes, Joe, I don't even know how to use my corporate bank account. Like you're way beyond me. I'm like, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
And so entrepreneurs out there, like you have to just do it. I could have for the next year sat there and tried to make the perfect presentation, but until you actually get out there and do something and fail, or it wasn't a failure. Like I wouldn't call that presentation. I met 9 agents. I learned some stuff. I got a client. Like it was fine.
You build on the positive. You build on the, you build on. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So I went back to the drawing board and then the next one, like, okay, like, well, let's tweak it this way. And then, well, what's the market research? What does my client actually have a problem with? I thought I knew what their problems were. So I was just like, oh, these are your problems. And that's when, so I hired a business coach and he was like, you're going to cold call these people and you can't fix a problem for someone if they don't know what their problems are. So like really clearly defining what their problems were.
Yeah.
Totally changed my approach. Right? Like, so I know these people inside and out. So when you say like, can I hold my real estate in a holding company? Like that's a question I get every time. And I just bring it up. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. And that's such a big thing, being able to, well, speak to your audience for one. And I mean, I think that's something that a lot of business owners do, right? They're like, I'm just going to make the best cupcakes and I'm going to sell them. Not, I haven't asked people what they want, I'm going to sell all vanilla cupcakes because that's what people want. but turns out they're all allergic to vanilla for whatever reason, you know? So yeah, I think it's a big thing. I think a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever, I think there's a lot of assumptions that are made. And like you said, until you're out there actually speaking to people and finding out from your target market what they want and need, yeah, keep it
And
from
that
moving
was like
forward.
so invaluable to me. Like again, having that business coach for those 6 months to really, I would have never looked at my business that way, right? Because he's
Okay.
not from my industry, he's not from their industry, and it was just very simple questions. He's like, well, what problem are you solving for them? I was like, I'm going to help them grow their wealth, and he's like, what the frick does that mean? Help them grow their wealth? That's not. He's like, is that a problem that they have? And I was like, well, it's a byproduct of the problem that they have, right? So like it
Yeah.
really pushed. So yeah, so now I'm a big of improving financial literacy. Like that's what you talk about. You're
Yeah,
passionate about learning
sure,
business
sure.
owners. Coming from a background where that wasn't taught, having to self-learn, make those mistakes. I think just in general, Canadians are financially illiterate about.
Yeah, I mean, look, most people are, I'm sure. It's a lot of work to learn that stuff. And it's not taught in schools, right? So where are we gonna get it? We're gonna get it from maybe our parents who also didn't get it taught in schools, and it
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
So yeah,
with you.
so I was
I
so
don't
at the
disagree.
time when I first got into that realm, I had a book of business that was not real estate agents, obviously, like
Okay.
because I had been in the industry for 6 years. And then so halfway through 2023, I made the decision to just exclusively work in this realm. So to the point where I actually sold like 30% of my clients because I was
Okay.
like, I'm not going to be able to devote this market the energy that it needs if
Yeah.
I'm still carrying that. So I sold a big block of my clients and kind of went all in. And I was at that time I was with a firm. So I was partner of the firm. I was not the PREC planners. Uh, Growing, learning, doing the presentations, tweaking, figuring out what worked, what didn't. It was literally like a year of perfecting the recipe, right?
Okay.
The right words,
Okay.
the right
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
nuances. Who are the
For sure.
people that I want? What are the numbers? Like, um, and that's why in March of this year, I made the decision to leave the firm that I was at and launch completely on my own.
Wow. That's exciting, right? Exciting? Scary?
It not scary. No, no.
Okay.
I was more than ready. And before I was at the firm, I was by myself for 4 years too. So like that
Okay.
wasn't scary. Um, the toughest part about the transition of so I'm like 9 weeks in, so I can't be like, oh, I'm just start. Like what we were talking about before, entrepreneurs get into business for themselves because they're passionate about something,
Yeah.
right? The
I've done
mechanic
it.
loves fixing cars, so they
Yeah.
think they're going to be open a mechanic shop. The veterinarian loves
Right.
animals, they think they're going to run a vet, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Um, but there's all the operation stuff behind it, right?
Yeah.
HR, marketing, bookkeeping, and accounting,
All that.
payroll,
All the
like
hats you have to wear. Yeah.
licensing, all that stuff. And so the first 6 weeks on my own, that's all I was doing. It was all
That's all you're
consuming.
learning, right? Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And it was just part of it. Like I was wearing the CEO hat, not
Yeah.
the financial planner hat. And I really
Right.
like wearing the financial planner hat, being with
Yeah.
my clients, networking, doing presenting, onboarding, like
Yeah.
business. Like I like that. Sitting there trying to like all of our computers. So I have 4 staff. They all had to have cybersecurity on them, getting them all integrated with all of our softwares and systems and all the passwords and IT and like even going to market with that. What's the best cybersecurity IT market? So I had to like interview 3 cybersecurity IT companies to figure out what's the best monitoring for my industry, for my programs, for our setups. Like,
Wow. All that. Yeah. You're like, ugh, okay, just yeah.
but
Set
yeah,
it up. I don't want to think about it. But
I
you got
know,
to do
but
it.
but I had to, and like
You have to.
I
Yeah.
think that was the biggest when you're truly, truly on your own. Like I go to bed and just like that's on me. Like there's no one to pass the buck to. Like
No.
there's no one I could be like, oh well, that was this department. It's like no, I am that department. Damn
Yeah.
it.
It's tough. It's tough for sure. Yeah.
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 So we're
It,
coming out of it now. I feel like a lot of that has settled. I've had very very full weeks with clients and planning, and also like I was like I have to generate revenue,
of course,
so
right?
I have to like get this up and going. Um, I don't know if I answered your question there.
You did? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No, no, it was great. It was great. Yeah. No, it's just, and I feel like for your business, I mean, you clearly identified a gap where, people didn't know that they needed help with this. So I think there's a big education piece to what you're doing. It's not like like if I start a business, I know I need a website, right? I know I got to shop around, find someone to build me a website because I'm probably not smart enough to do it myself. If I become a real estate agent, I probably don't know that I need a PREC, and I probably don't even know, if it's good or bad, or no one knows enough about it to really form an opinion.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
one of
where,
the big myths in any incorporated industry is accountants and lawyers. If they were to say, like, when should I form a PREC? The generic answer would be, don't form a PREC until you make like 200K. They'll just be like this
okay,
generic number they throw out. And I think that's like my biggest pet peeve because that's not true. When you
okay,
understand how a corporation works, it's
yeah,
not what you make, it's what you keep and how much do you need to live your life. Like I know some agents that make $600,000 gross a year, but they spend 650. They should not have a corporation because they're not keeping any money in the corporation. There's no
oh, I
point,
see,
right?
I see,
Whereas I
yeah.
know some agents that only make 60K a year, but because they have a part-time job on the side and their spouse works full-time for the government and has a pension, the 60K a year that they're making from real estate, they're not spending. So all of it can stay in the corporation and they don't have to pay personal tax on it.
So wait, let me guess. The answer is it depends.
So it depends.
It depends.
And that's what, like, I'm kind of, and it's funny how the evolution of the PRECs are going to evolve. So right now, the presentations I have, like, they're on the website, they're just for stock presentation because that's what my market needs right now. PRECs are new. Even if you formed one day one, October of 2020,
Yeah.
you've only had like 3 tax filings, right? Like you're
Okay.
still a
Right.
new incorporated business owner.
Yeah.
Your corporation doesn't even really have credit. It can't go out. So to answer your question, should it buy a property?
Oh, I see.
It doesn't have credit history, so you still have to personally guarantee it if you need a mortgage on
Right.
the property you're about to buy.
Right.
So the conversation is going to be having about PRECs 10 years from now, once these corporations have been around for 13 years, there's massive retained earnings in them, there are real asset holdings. The conversations, and I'm going to have to pivot and grow my pitch because the problems my clients are going to have 10 years from now are very different than the problems they're having today.
I saw that on your website. There's like, the agents at 0 to 3, 4 to 10 or whatever. You have it all.
Yep.
Yeah. Depending on where you are in your career, it all depends. I understand. It's all depending on what's going on. You have different needs for what you're trying to do. Absolutely.
And same as for the agents that they're at the tail end of their career. So they spent 30 years in the industry without a PREC, right? Do they get
Yeah.
one now? Do they not? What does this mean for their last 5 years? So the planning for them is very, very different than the plan for an agent who's just coming in, starting out year 1, year
Right.
2, year 3, because they now have this beautiful opportunity to structure their business completely differently. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, I'm just on a mission
All
to
right.
talk
It
to them.
depends. I know.
It
But I
depends.
mean, but that's the whole point. And I think that's the idea is that, you can't just make blanket statements for everyone in any industry. They're saying it's just like, well, we go back to the website example, right? I need a website. Okay, I'll build you a website without asking me any questions or whatever, or you just build a website. Right? It's the same sort of thing. You have to get to know that person's situation because you can't just say, if I say, well, you need a website for e-commerce, but I'm not selling anything, right?
Do you need
So
just a
it's like
landing page? Does it have
right,
to have like a newsletter, e-commerce? Do they buy
right,
stuff on it? Does it have to be
yeah,
linked to your bank account? Yeah.
right. So,
As someone
if
who just
someone
went through
says,
building a website, I did
right,
that whole exercise with my marketing company.
good times, right? So, if I say, what kind of website do I need? And someone says, you need this website, that's probably the wrong person to speak to. I need the person that says it depends, right? Because
Absolutely.
that person's willing to take the time and explain to me what I'm going to need based on my situation. Same thing you're doing with people. And that's why it's, and you need to speak to an expert about
And
these things.
one of the things that I do differently than a lot of other people in my industry, and you kind of came from my industry, so you sort of know how it's structured.
Yeah.
So one of the things I learned, right? So I'm in these presentations, I've got the presentation down pat, people are all in, and they're like coming up to me and they're going, so how we usually get paid in my industry is people move their money over, right? They have their money at the bank or with another advisor, they transfer their assets to me, and then I get paid trailers on that income. So we're trying to move assets over. And on
Okay.
the commission of selling insurance. So we sell life insurance, health, disability insurance, whatever, I get paid commission on that.
Yeah.
So real estate agents, though, their business is all built on referrals. You want to know
Yes.
someone who's well connected? Talk to a real estate agent. They know someone in every industry. They're like
Right.
referral machines. So they
True.
come to my presentations, they go, oh my gosh, Joe, love it. You clearly know what you're doing. I want to work with you because I see you can help me, but all of my assets are with so-and-so who refers me 5 deals a year, and so-and-so who gives me 3 deals a year. And like some of these, like I worked with an agent and he has 5 RSP accounts with 5 different advisors because
Just
each one of them gives him a couple deals. So he's like,
wow.
if I pull all my assets from them to be with me to invest, he's like, and I'm not a referral source for these people. All my clients are real estate agents,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
I can't help
Yeah.
them out. So I was like, that's a problem I didn't really think about. And
Yeah.
another issue is a lot of them don't have a lot of cash investments because they've all just invested in real estate, right? They've shut, so all their money is held up in like physical holdings. So I was like, I didn't really think of that. How am I going to get around this? So I implemented a fee for service model. I charge a flat planning fee, and that's what develops again on the website. Here's my planning process. You can hire me and
Yeah.
I'll go through my planning program. It's a 5-phase process. This is exactly what we do. This is what we deliver. I have a letter of engagement. You hire me, you'll get your plan within 6 weeks. This is what you're committed. Like it's very
Very
structured,
structured, right.
and
Yeah.
they pay me $2,500 for a plan
Okay.
to go through the 5 phases. And at the end of it, how I position it is like, look, at the end of this process, you're going to get a plan and I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to. I'll look at your existing investments. I'll give you feedback on them. You can take them to your guy and say, hey, I had a third party look at this. Maybe I need some more global equities, like whatever the issue is.
Yeah.
And so they go through the process with me, very transparent and vulnerable, because their backs aren't up thinking, oh, she's just trying to move my money. She's just trying to sell me something. So
Right.
they're very open with me. They answer my
because
questions
there's
honestly.
you're not incentivized by having to move their money
They've
to you.
already paid me.
Yeah.
And so they show me everything. Whereas I found before I charged fee for service, it was like a grind to get people, right, to show you your statements and tell you the whole story and give you all of the information. Whereas right now it's in my letter of engagement that says, once you sign this and pay, you have 14 days to upload all the documents that we need to a secure link and get it done.
Right.
And they do. I mean, like because they're committed to the process and they know that I've understood them and they know that they're going to go through. So it's made my job as a planner so much easier.
That's interesting.
I get everything up front. I see the whole picture. I get total buy-in from them and their spouse, because the spouse has to be on board too.
Fair, right? You need the whole picture. Yeah.
And at the end, I think I've only had two of say 30 files now. Because like I said, keep in mind, I only started this last fall.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
very new at this.
Yeah.
Not move their assets over.
Okay.
And so at some point in the plan, there is an account, or then I end up doing their corporate investments because their guy that has their RESPs isn't managing their corporate investments. So I'm like, look, okay, leave your kids 30K RESP with your buddy at Sun Life. I don't care.
Yeah.
Let's open up a corporate investment account and implement the plan. So they're all still onboarding as clients. They're still doing stuff with me, and they're really happy with that. They get this full plan, this big picture, this ongoing service. Everyone stays happy. They haven't stepped on anyone's toes. My team's compensated for our time, but that's weird because that's in my industry. That fee for service thing is not.
No, but it sounds like it made sense to pivot to it though, because otherwise you were gonna have just constant roadblocks. So, I mean, good for you for thinking outside the box and coming up with a more creative solution.
Yeah, or I would have been like doing tons of work and been broke. So at least those fees at least pay like, yeah. So I don't know. The other questions I think you had sent me to was about like how do you grow? And so like I want to grow, and there's 100,000 agents in Ontario. Even if I worked at this for the next like 30 years and I only got to 1%, that's 1,000. Like I don't want 1,000 clients, right?
Yeah.
So I've got this massive market, and I was like, you can't be all things to all people. That's one thing I see lots of business owners too,
Absolutely.
right? They try to be.
At first, yes, absolutely.
You
learn
have
to
to
niche down pretty quickly. Yeah.
But you have to let go of what you're not good at. And to be totally honest, I don't know if this is going to be public, but like, I don't actually super love financial planning.
Okay.
Like I like solving problems. I like working with people. I like seeing people achieve their goals. I like clarifying complex things. But the actual nitty gritty of like investment analysis and transcribing data off of portfolios and uploading them to our financial planning software and building net worth sheets, like anything to do with data entry, like kill me now.
Your thing. Yeah.
Not my thing. So I have surrounded myself with a team that has a completely opposite skill set of me. Very introverted, super nerdy.
Nerdy, I love it.
Well, I joke. I was like, you go nerd out on all the data,
Yeah.
And they're better at it. They pay attention to detail. They get really into the nitty gritty of it. And they do nothing client facing. So I actually hired 2 contract repair planners. They're 2 guys I've known for 7 or 8 years. They're CFPs. They know the software I use inside and out. They're phenomenal planners. And they do all so I'm still like hands-on with the file. Like I still know what I'm doing, all the client stuff.
Yeah. But just the more technical stuff that you're handing that off to people who are maybe better suited to do it anyway.
Way better. Like it's about 48 hours per file, depending on the size of the file. And like, for example, if a real estate agent has 6 investment properties, that's 6 mortgage statements, lines of credits, income, expenses, like assets, market value, capital gains tax calculations. Like,
and all your nerds guys are getting all excited about it. Like, oh yeah, look at
that. This is the terminal tax liability on all these properties. And they go like, and so that $2,500 planning fee allows me to, so they're not employees. I don't have enough revenue to just have someone on as a full-time planner yet.
Okay.
So I just pay them a flat $700 per plan.
Right.
They know this is where you come into the plan. This is where you exit the plan. This is the deliverable. They invoice me and I pay them and away they go.
But that's the way to do it, right? You're offloading the stuff that, one, you don't want to do and you're not good at, and you don't want to get good at it either. So, it sounds like you've got it set up really well. I mean, we talked earlier about all the hats you have to wear. You've already removed one of those hats from the equation. You start a new business owners wear all these hats, and this was something that was, you're up at night even thinking about one hat you didn't get you didn't wear long enough that day, admin, bookkeeping, whatever it was, right? But now you've offloaded one of those hats. And now, but I mean, to me, that seems like the way to go is as your business evolves, as you grow, as revenue permits, of course, you can start offloading some of those tasks and not having to wear as many hats yourself.
And it's interesting that you say as revenue permits, because I see this with real estate agents, and I have other business owner clients as well, right?
Yeah.
Is you can't, so this is the thing, it's like, well, I can't hire the office manager or the whoever it is until I get more revenue, but I can't get more revenue until my time is freed up. So it's this kind of vicious cycle, right? Where it's just like, well, I can't hire a full-time or like a proper bookkeeper. So I'm going to do my bookkeeping every night and every weekend or get behind and not pay my taxes because I don't have enough revenue. But if you take that off your plate and now those 4 hours a week are spent doing revenue generating activity, like what's your cost of sale? Like I know about how much I make off of every client. It's like, all I need to do is get one new average client and that pays for this person's, entire whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my office manager, that evolution, like that was, I'd say, the scariest part of making this jump was committing to a full-time salaried, non-revenue generating position.
Right.
Before I actually had the money to float it. But I knew, I saw the volume, I saw the follow-ups, I saw the activity that I had to do. And I was like, I can't manage. Like I could do a presentation, for example, and there's 10 agents there. And I have a structured follow-up process. Day one after, email, everyone gets a handwritten thank you card mailed into them, comes next week. Second follow-up is a bomb. I mean, there's this follow-up process. And that's how I get clients. But I was dropping the ball on it, right? Because I'm like doing all this other
Right.
And I was like, if she just did my follow-ups and got me one client, that's her salary for the month. Done. Yeah. So I committed to her, hired her full-time, like riding a line of credit. I was like, it's worked out. Like, I mean, we're only not, like, so I hired her back when I was at the other firm. And honestly, within the first 3 weeks, she'd already paid for her 3-month salary.
Wonderful, right?
So if you know your numbers and it's really clear and you get the right person in the job, and you actually get out there and do what you're good at, it's kind of a no-brainer. But I think if I had waited until I'd saved up and that, or whatever it was, I'd still be just floundering where I was. And she was like the best thing that ever happened to me.
I think the best coaches, right, will tell you, you got to spend time working on the business, not in the business. Right. And that's that. And, they'll always tell you, you got to figure out a way to work on the business, because working on the business, that's what generates your revenue. That's where you're making your money. And again, that's where your strength is. That's where you're good at, your passion. But if you're not putting any time into that and you're too busy working in the business, then, you're just going to end up spinning your wheels.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan. And I think I've been like, that's been one of my strengths, I think, as a business owner, has just been very in tune with what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and surrounding myself with people that have complementing skill sets to just
Great.
to do what's not. And I try to spend as much of my days focusing on activity and revenue generating activity, not slogging in the minutia of
That's awesome. I see so
crap.
many people struggling with that. They struggle, like they stick to the minutia, and I got to do this billing, I got to do this invoicing, I do the office managing stuff, I got to do all the admin tech stuff, whatever. Meantime, but they're not getting anywhere, right? So
Just
it's just
let go of the control, release
yeah,
it, hire a virtual assistant. So what I did with her was I hired her 10 hours a week to start
yeah,
because she had another job. And so that's how we kind of like learned the flow and the train and how does this work. And then that evolved to a full-time 6-month contract because I was like, look, I don't know if I can commit to like payroll, like
yeah.
EI, CPP, salary, whatever. But she's just like, we loved working together. And she's like, look, I'd quit my job if you committed to me for 6 months. I was like, okay, I can commit to a 6-month contract.
All right.
Right. And then I felt like I didn't have the, yeah, again, like for some reason in my mind, even though I treat her the same way, there was a difference between having a contractor working for me full time and having an
Yeah.
employee full time.
There is, because that employee is open ended, and you're responsible to that person for the foreseeable future, right? So it's meantime, if you do 6 months, you're like, look, 6 months, see if this thing crashes and burn, or if it works, and then we can, yeah, I can see that. That makes total sense. But it makes sense that you would start off gradually like that, right? Because if you just hire like 5 people right off the bat and you can't make payroll, that's you're going to be panicked about that instead of generating revenue, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's to me it sounds like that's the best way to go for sure. Build your team gradually as you
Slowly with
can.
the right pieces. And in my industry, what a lot of advisors tend to do is go right out and try and find a sub advisor.
Okay.
Right. And so they try and get another advisor into like, so another kind of weird thing I do is I've never bought a book of business. So in my industry,
Okay.
that's very common. You get your license and they're like, okay, buy a block of 200 clients.
Yeah.
And then you just get on the phone and you call these 200 clients and you own these 200 clients and they're paying you like a trailer so you have a bit of money. When I came into the business, I was very fortunate. My husband's income was enough to float our bills at home.
Okay.
And like we had 3 kids under 5 and then ended up being pregnant again with our 4th. So the
Busy.
thought, pardon me,
Things busy.
so the thought of like buying 200 clients and then just being bogged down with all the paperwork and service work of someone else's like junk clients, I was like, no. So I was like, I'm going to do this organically, which pros and cons. It's a harder way to go in my industry.
Of course.
But I've been very fortunate that that's what I did. I was just able to grow organically through my natural market, off of referrals. And I've always kept my book of business extremely lean to the point, like even last year, when, like I said, I sold a third of my clients.
Right.
My peers were like, what are you doing? Like, that's a lot of revenue. But I just knew that I couldn't go into this next phase carrying that with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Makes sense.
run, like, I quality over quantity. I will never be one of those people that has thousands of clients. Well, maybe as I grow or whatever, but like me personally,
You personally, yeah. Yeah.
no, I just really high quality clients that value my advice, that are good communicators, that they're business owners, right? My best clients are the ones that operate their business like me. They're out there selling houses. They have office managers. They have sub agents. They're not DIY investing. They're not DIY bookkeeping. They have full teams managing all that because these real estate agents know they make money when they sell houses. They
Right.
don't make money when they're sitting there with their stupid Excel spreadsheets trying to track their own mileage. Like
Yeah.
that's just not what profitable business owners do.
And you're trying to help them make money, right?
But I'm trying to help that level of agent reduce their
Yeah.
taxes.
Exactly. Which, keeps money in their pocket, right? So
Yeah.
they're incentivized, right, to work with you and communicate. Like, oh, right, Joanne's needs some paperwork because she wants to put more money in my pocket. That's awesome. Or keep more money in my pocket.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it.
So that's,
That's
how
great.
PREC Planner's where it is now and how it's evolved. And it's been a pretty fast, 12 months from the time I was like, this is what I'm going to do. What are their problems? Test it, figure it out, implement fee for service, hire my own staff, leave the firm I'm at, launch my brand.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it sounds like a bit of a roller coaster, but I hope you've enjoyed the ride so far because,
yes.
yes.
Yeah. No, it's been, I'm really, another piece too that was in there or that I haven't mentioned is getting my CFP designation, which I feel is like a really important part of my story.
Okay.
When I left my previous career in veterinary medicine and just was like, I'm going to become a financial planner, and I was did a mortgage agent for a little bit, I knew nothing about my industry, like nothing.
Okay.
As I thought to become a financial planner, you had to become a financial planner, like a CFP. So like I literally signed up for the courses at Algonquin College.
Yeah.
But the CFP designation is really meant for people that are already in the industry to like you have to have 3 years of full-time industry experience before you can even write the exam. So
Oh,
I'm like sitting
totally.
there at Algonquin College being like, let's learn how to be a financial planner. And I'm surrounded by like all these guys that have like been at the bank for 15, 20 years in their suits and stuff. And I was like,
Huh.
huh. But I really, for me, it was something that like would really validate my position in the industry.
Okay.
The industry is really, really full of middle-aged men. There's not
Yeah.
a lot of women in the industry, and I don't know mentally. And so this is a hang up too. Like I see a lot of business, like that imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
or I'm not good
Right.
enough to play in this space, or there's someone that's better than me, or like those things that plague us at night as business
Yeah.
owners.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And I just really, for the past 8 years, was just like, I'm not going to be good enough until I have my CFP.
Okay.
It was there. And so what happened in the middle of COVID is FP Canada, our governing body, announced that you could never get your CFP unless you had a university degree, effective like 2023. And I went to college. So I was like, shh, I've got like, and I was pregnant with my fourth kid or fifth kid, I don't remember. And it was like
All a blur.
COVID,
I
like
love
it
it.
was just, and I was like, and now the timeline's on. Like I have to actually do this. I think I did my CFP course in like the shortest time frame, like in the history of CFP, but it was, I ended up getting something called your QAFP in the interim, which is called, because that bought me like an extra 12 months. Like it grandfathered me in a bit longer. It was a colossal freaking nightmare.
Yeah,
And
you
I was
were
just juggling too
busy
much. It
on
was
top
like,
of busy, right?
it was the middle of COVID. I was trying to keep my business afloat. I was joining a firm. I had, like I said, I had my fourth and fifth kid in there who are like very close back to back. And I was like, now I have to get this designation. If I don't get it, I can never get it. Like it was just this like
Wow.
panic. So I wrote.
Some people were bored during COVID. I mean, they just sat around. I don't feel like that's what happened to you.
That is not. It was a terrible, terrible time. Like I remember, like you asked me about the office that I'm in, like lying on a mattress on the floor, nursing my 9-week-old baby, watching like logged in live to the classes because you had to be there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and trying to retain like corporate tax planning and trusts and estates
Oh,
and like
yeah, baby brain. Wow, good. Wow, that's impressive.
it was terrible. So, so then I put off writing my CFP exam to like the last possible date where like if I failed, I couldn't get it. And that was February 7th of this year, like just like 3 months ago.
Okay.
And in my mind, I was like, I'll take the month of January off and study. Like I'll just 6 weeks before I signed up for this prep course. I was like, I'm just going to block the business off. I was like, I'm just going to study. And then my dad passed away really unexpectedly.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's right. Like he was 62, had a heart attack. I ended up having to go to Nova Scotia for 2 weeks and came back. And then like, so anyways, I wrote the exam. I found out I passed. I have my CFP now. Yay, great. But what I learned so much through that was as business owners, like it's mind over matter. How I
Sure.
passed that exam is when I came back from my dad's funeral, I was like, I've got 16 days to the exam. I can't study. Like it's done. I know what I know.
Yeah.
Like, and I need to just take care of my brain. I need to go into this exam well rested, in a positive frame of mind, as healthy as I can be. So I spent those 16 days exercising, meditating, eating healthy food, going to bed early, and reading positive affirmations. That's it. And like
Wow.
I
All right.
reviewed some stuff, like just some like little like, little
Sure.
rules or whatever. But I was like, I can't I either know this stuff at this point or I don't. I'm a very competent planner. I've been doing this for 7 years. But even me saying that out loud to you right now, I would have never said that a year ago.
Really, eh?
But that was like an effort.
Because
It's
you
like
didn't have the CFP.
apparently, yeah, because that was so different a
That's
year
the
ago.
difference. Yeah.
But to business owners, like we do, like that imposter syndrome of just, oh, I'm not good enough as them, or I follow them on social media and their business is so much better, and like whatever it is. And we win or what's the saying? It's like whether you win or you lose, you're right. Right. But it's all like it's all just a matter of mindset.
Mind over matter. Yeah.
And so that was like a really, really good learning experience for me as a business owner, that our thoughts become our words, which become our actions.
Yes.
And
Firm believer.
not letting our brains get away from us.
Which is so hard when you have all those fears and doubts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but you're
I
absolutely
know
right.
if I had tried to cram, I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to pass this. And I don't know this. And there's so many other people that have been studying. And it's been 2 years since I picked up my books. And oh my gosh, and I don't know this, and I don't know that, and I don't know this. And I would have just like worked, I 100% would have failed.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
knowledge I had was the exact same, but my mindset going into that was totally different. And that's how I approached my clients too. I used to be super intimidated by very wealthy, successful clients.
Right.
I'm not good enough. There's other planners they could hire. That's not me. Whereas now I'm just like, no, I know what I'm doing. And if I don't, I'm going to help them. And I have the experience and I am competent and I'm going to bring incredible value to these people and not in an arrogant way,
No, no,
right?
no,
And
no.
just a,
Because you're the professional, and I'm sure during those conversations you learn pretty quickly that you know more than they do,
yeah,
and that you can help them. Right, like you
yeah,
said, we're all financially illiterate, right? Our education system doesn't teach us about finances. You have to pick it up
yeah.
here and there, take courses, or go to the professionals. But yeah, just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you know how to make it. You don't know
Or
what to
keep
do with
it.
it.
Lots of
Yeah,
people know how to make it, but they don't know how to keep it.
right, right. So many
So
people, all the lottery winners, right?
yeah, yeah. So that's I'd say the biggest challenge from being someone who was employed as an employee. I grew up in an environment where you were told become an employee, and then ripping off the band-aid and be like, I'm going to be self-employed, and we are a dual self-employed household. My husband's also self-employed. Um, it's the mindset around it, and
Yeah,
having an abundance mindset and not a scarcity mindset. Like I said to you, I was
yeah,
like, there's 100,000 agents out there in Ontario. I think there's more business than what I could ever tackle
right.
in my lifetime. And I go to events and I hear, and all the other advice, like, no one's doing this and the clients aren't doing that. And the community isn't like, they just have this real like scarcity kind of mindset. And I'm like, oh, that's not my, like, I don't know.
No, you can't
It
be like
sounds
that.
hippy dippy, but
And that, no, I think you're right. You do have to. It's mindset is huge. Mindset will get you through your day, and that's how you survive everything that's thrown at you. Because life is tough. COVID I think is a good example. That hit everyone, right? It shut down the world. So but life didn't stop, right?
no,
People still had babies, right?
that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People were still studying to get designations, right? During all that. So I'm just saying, like, but what got you through that? It sounds like your mindset, right? And it sounds like really, just knowing that you can do it, or that there's an abundance, or all that stuff is. And I always find knowing you can do it is the big thing. Not knowing how,
Yeah.
but knowing you can do it, right? So
Yeah.
like for your exam, for instance, getting your designation, somewhere along the road, you must have known that you could do it, right? Like
Well,
when
and that's what
you
it was. I was like, I passed all the courses. I did all my case studies. I got my
right,
QAFP. Like, I know I can do this. I've been working
right.
in this industry. I've been doing corporate files intensively now for a year. I've managed a successful book of business. Like, uh, but that was a huge, huge mental shift for me that happened in the past 12 months of going from like, I don't belong here. I'm just a vet tech pretending to be a financial advisor, like whatever, like all these weird
How did
self-conceit.
that change? What changed there for you? It's a funny story. I can't wait.
No, it's not. So, okay, I'm going to try and find a way to phrase this properly. Okay, coming out of COVID,
Yeah.
getting back into the industry, connecting with my peers. Like I said, I joined a firm, got connected with some other firms, and I realized very quickly that there was a lot of people that I had looked up to in my industry that I thought were phenomenal, big
Yes.
sellers, big planners, like all this weird stuff. And then as I got to know them a little bit better, I'm like, full stop. Like, what? And they weren't doing what I had always perceived them to be doing.
Okay.
Right? Like I would look at these businesses or people, peers in my industry, and put them sort of on a pedestal and
Yeah.
be like, oh my gosh, someday I hope to aspire to be as good as they are. And then I got in there and I was like, this is what you're doing?
Nice.
Right? And so it was a big reality check for me that I was like, holy crap, I do really good work.
Yeah.
Like,
You pulled back the curtain and you're like, oh, all right.
this
A
is what my
wizard
industry
is
is. Okay,
yeah.
like I'm good. I can, and that's it. Like there's absolutely really really good firms out there, and really good planners, and really good
Of
teams.
course.
But there was just like a handful, and I don't mean that. And that's like I don't know. I don't want to say this in a derogatory way. It's not like what these people are doing is bad or wrong. But I had just put what I thought these businesses were doing in a certain category, And then when I actually saw it, I was like, this is just like what I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So that's something that really, really shifted for me in a confidence standpoint of being like, I don't have to be under the thumb of that kind of person, or like,
Yep.
I can play in that space.
Yeah,
And it's
you
fine.
got this. Yeah, you're doing well. You're doing great. There's no reason to yeah. And to never meet your heroes, is that part of the thing? Get to know them and like yeah.
Yeah. That's very, and like, and over this journey, so when I was looking to leave the firm that I was at, I was not planning on going my own. I was like, oh, I think I should just, because I wasn't super happy where I was. Well, not that's, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't going to be a long-term fit. Great, great people, had a lot of really good things for them, but I saw, I was like, this is not where I'm going to spend the rest of my career. So I did look at other firms locally in Toronto, other teams. I talked to my peers about us partnering up and doing our own thing. Like, I spent a fair bit of time kind of looking at all my options, and I was like,
Yeah.
I need to just go on my own. So
Awesome.
yeah, it was good.
Look at now. Now, do you know of anyone else who's doing the same sort of thing as you are right now?
In what context?
Well, like the PREC planners, like
No.
specifically, like, so no one's really kind of tackling that education piece and working with the
There's one guy in Manitoba, and I follow him on LinkedIn, who advertises that he works real estate agents a fair bit. And that was some of the market research I did too. Like, is this a viable market for me? Right? And like, if they all just invest in real estate, none of them have any assets, like, I'm gonna have a really tough go here. And so that's what I spent that year doing. And no, is it coming? Yes. I'm pretty sure that there are people following me on LinkedIn and seeing what I'm doing and are like, oh, she's onto something. But that's fine. There's more than enough business out there for everybody.
For sure. Like you said, 100,000 agents in Ontario alone. Yeah, that's awesome.
Fine. So, and my, again, how I'm getting these guys is just really focused on the education. So those presentations I've developed, the wording, the context, like, it's going to take someone else a fair amount of time and energy and skill set to approach it the same way I am. They might have success approaching it a different way. I don't know, but I'm finding success. I go into brokerages, I offer education, build relationships, and kind of roll from there. So no, as far as I know, no. Is it coming?
Look at you.
Yes, I can guarantee you there will be people advertising in the near future that they are also specialists in this space.
All right.
So,
wow.
Which is fine. I don't care. Okay.
It sounds like the bar is set pretty high. Like, the barrier to entry is, it's fairly challenging. You can't. It's not like I can turn around and be like, "Yeah, I'm going to start doing this tomorrow," right?
So here's the thing: most financial advisors. So it takes a lot of guts, balls, courage, crazy courage. There you go. It takes a lot of crazy courage,
right? I mean,
to fully commit your business to a very specific niche market. Very few people ever do this. And so if you go Google financial advisors in Ottawa, read 50 websites, and they're all going to say, we specialize in working with incorporated business owners. It's like, what the F is an incorporated business owner? It's everybody.
Right.
Okay. There's a couple firms, brands. There's one in Toronto that focuses just on dentists. There's two guys in Ontario that are really into the dentist market. Like, if you're a dentist in Ontario, you're one of these two guys' clients. MD Financial, which now is owned by Scotiabank, they built that brand. MD, Medical Doctor Financial. If you're a medical doctor, and they started out similar, right? We're just going to go into the universities, the colleges, get these medical doctors when they're first starting out, and they grew into this massive, massive, massive firm that sold to Scotiabank. So has it been done? Yes. That's when you ask about the long-term goals. I joke, I was like, I want to be the MD Financial of the real estate world.
Nice. That's right. That sounds like a nice lofty goal, and yeah, great.
So to have, and even like selling the book of business and just streamlining, like, these are my clients. This is what I want. This is kind of the only space I want to work in. I do have another branch of my business that is branded differently, called Ancestry Wealth Planners, because what again happened, these real estate agents, they like to refer, right? And so they say, Joe, love it, love the portfolios, love the strategy, love the planning. I've got a client moving here from Toronto. They just sold their house in Toronto for $3 million. Can you help them? They don't know anyone in Ottawa. Can we refer them to you? Nice. So I couldn't take those people and be like, sure, come on over, be part of the PREC planners. They wouldn't get it. No. And like I said, I do have clients that are not real estate agents, and they're phenomenal clients. So when I made the choice to leave and launch the PREC planners, I do have another brand that they fall underneath. I don't.
There's an opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, and that's what it is. So even when I go into brokerages, I say, look, I'm the PREC planners. This is what it is. But I Answer Trading Wealth Planners, which is the other firm, I put that business card and some information about it in the folder that I give them, and just saying, look, I am available and my team is available to help non-real estate agents as well. But from a marketing and prospecting and growth standpoint, I focused my energy.
Yes, right. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes sense to keep those separate because you're talking to different sets of people, right? For sure. So it's
yeah,
wow,
and I just couldn't imagine. So the clients that I kept that are not real estate agents, and that was one of those operational decisions, right? And it was hard, right, to sit there and be like, oh God, I'm going to have 2 websites. I'm going to have 2 sets of branded everything, order 2 sets of business cards, like 2 email signatures,
right?
2, like I had to double up on everything.
There are 2 hats for everything, right?
And even now when I said like, who am I talking to, and my team too, right? Like the logos are all different, like my Calendly links, like having 2 accounts for everything so that everything's branded separately. But I couldn't in good conscience picture myself calling those clients that are not real estate agents and say, hey, look, I'm leaving the firm that I'm at. This is where I'm going. You're really important to me, but I'm just going to shovel you in this brand that you don't align with. Like it didn't sit well with me. So I was like,
Sure.
all right, here we go. 2 firms.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, but I don't feel like there's a dull moment in your life. I swear.
I hope one's coming soon.
Yeah.
I could really, like, so my short-term goal is 2025.
Yeah.
Fall of 2025. Maybe not the fall because that's my busiest time. I want to take an RV with all of my kids in it because next 2025 will be the earliest that my youngest won't be in a car seat, and you can't put car seats in RVs, and like across Canada and back, like 6-8 weeks. And that'll be, my oldest will be 15, so that'll probably be the last year she'll want to actually spend that much time with us.
Yeah. That'd be good timing for sure.
I want to have my business at a point where I can just autopilot, office manager and team runs it. I can check in from Wi-Fi's across the country and go.
And Wi-Fi is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
and so that's the goal. Is I was like, I'm going to put my head down for the next 12 months, bust my butt, and see what I can pull off.
Wow, so exciting. So exciting. That sounds like
Nick.
So much fun. That sounds so much fun. You know what, Joanne? I'll probably cut it off here. Sounds like we've covered a lot of ground, but this way it leaves us a chance to reconnect again. And I can find out what's going on next time, see where you are in the planning of that RV trip.
Thanks, and we'll see how things. Thank you so much for this, Nick. This was really, really good. I don't think I've ever said that in that context or that way before. So hopefully someone listening gets some value out of it. And for sure. Good for you for doing this. That's super. That's very, very admirable that you're doing this for the reasons that you are. I love that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, like I said, I love a good story, and you gave me a good story, so it's win-win. I love it. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.